Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be finally talking about Uriel. I have been so excited for this Warframe since he first got revealed a couple of months ago, because just everything about him, like visually, looked so cool, and then when they actually showed off his abilities, and all of these guys that you can see floating around me, he looked like he was absolutely going to be my next main. And I wouldn't be surprised if Uriel turns into this sort of default skin of Warframe, where you see like everyone using this character. Because, I mean, oh, I know the lighting in here is not like peak, but just Jesus Christ, he looks like a Demogorgon. I mean, DE, they absolutely cooked with this one, let's be real. Regardless, the update has been out for a couple of hours, and I have put together a just a ridiculous build to use on this guy. So let me show you what is up with his passive, his 4 abilities, and the best way to build him, because you need to get your hands on this frame as soon as possible. The Heretic of Zata, he ain't messing around. If you've seen any of the promotional stuff about Uriel regarding his actual kit, you will know that his passive allows him to command, empower, and protect 3 unique demons. If I come out of the arsenal, and yeah, these guys. They just hover around you, keeping in front of your reticle, and if I brought some enemies in, they would do all their special things. But these 3 demons all have their own unique abilities that are tied to these abilities, and that they just get unlocked when you unlock these ones. Other than that, they don't really have much of any like implied synergy. And I will just cover them when we get to the abilities themselves, starting off with Infernalis and Catenach. Infernalis is actually really simple. You toggle the ability, and you light yourself and your demons on fire, and if you walk near enemies now, just to show you, you will, surprise surprise, light them on fire and trigger the heat status. Now, you see the demons doing their thing, but right now, about the ability, there's not really much to this. It lasts for a really long time, but the actual fun aspect here is that if you dodge while in the air, you turn into a Death Eater. And you have complete omnidirectional 3D movement in, like, yeah. And also, you know, I am stupid fast right now. I mean, what the hell was that? The ability scales off of parkour speed. If you look in the bottom right, you will see that right now with 0 mods, I have a 34-second duration. And that is the amount of time that I can fly. You'll also see that my energy isn't going down. So I can just do this for as long as the ability lasts. And if you aim glide, it obviously will allow you to shoot enemies, dash again, and keep it rolling for no additional energy cost. Jumping will take you out of it, and I believe that meleeing also takes you out of it. But like, mine's a little bit fast for this tiny area, but you know, you can weave it in, shoot some enemies, dash around, shoot some enemies, dash around. It's really, really fun to use. Like really fun, and especially when you have such an obnoxious speed boost, you can just zoom. To cover Catenach though, which is the demon that is tied to this ability, if we go a little bit in deeper here and look at the actual passive, you will see it says that Catenach snares and slows enemies, chaining them together. Damage dealt to any target in the chain is inflicted on all snared enemies. If this is sounding familiar, it is because this is literally Kalervo's collective curse, except you don't need to cast it, but it is only going to affect a couple of enemies at a time. Yet that isn't really much of a problem if we just come back out to these guys and wait for him to do his thing. Come on, do something. I know, yeah, thank you. All of these enemies are now chained together, as you can see, and if I shoot this guy, so if we kill one of these chained enemies, it is very likely that all of the rest of them will die. And there is no cooldown on this. Like, he will just continue to chain people passively. So all you really need to do is just look out for which enemy is chained, and then, you know, like, come on, do your thing, buddy. Thank you. And then once he does that, yeah, there you go. You're pretty much going to be passively killing more enemies just because Catenach is chaining them for you, and that's very useful. But yeah, Infernalis is a great movement tool, and the heat stuff is kind of useful, a little bit. Moving on over to Remedium. Remedium is also incredibly simple in that when you cast it, all it does is heal yourself all the way back up to maximum HP and heal your demons all the way back up to max HP, and if they are dead, it will resurrect them. Just coming out here, if I drain the HP on my demons, which if you look on my HUD at the right side, you will see all of their health bars. If I cast this ability, they all go back up to full. And in the top right, you will see that every time I cast it, I'm giving myself more overshields. With a decently high enough strength build, just casting this ability a couple times is going to completely max out all of your defensive stats while keeping your demons alive, And it is very important because their passive abilities and what they do is kind of like 70% of Uriel's actual kit that you're going to use in moment-to-moment gameplay, so keeping them up is real important. And it's also just good for Uriel's own survivability. Having an on-demand, I am now at max HP, is pretty nice. Let's talk about Gulphagor, the companion that we get from Remedium. Gulphagor will latch onto foes and deal damage over time, and if killed, a circle of pain is spawned. Very dramatic. That description kind of leaves a few things out though, so let's just get another group of enemies back in here so we can actually see it. That would be Gulphagor, who is just latched onto this man. And if we kill this guy, which you can see he had that big mark over his head, he is going to drop a ton of health and energy orbs. He drops so much health and energy that with Equilibrium, you can run 45% efficiency very comfortably on Uriel, because every 5 seconds or so he's going to do this. You're going to passively kill the enemy by just playing the game, and get more HP and energy than you could possibly need. The crazy part about this is that the health orb drop and energy orb drop chance scale with strength. So if we build that super high, you're going to get like 5 HP orb drops and at least 2 energy orb drops. So Gulphagor is definitely an incredibly useful companion. Demonium is luckily a little bit more interesting than Infernalis and Remedium. When you cast, you will tear these souls out of your 3 demons to launch forward, and then when they make contact with an enemy or a surface, they just bounce around and explode to make every enemy more vulnerable to all types of damage. It's pretty simple. You cast it, and then everything in a certain area is just going to take more damage. There's honestly, it's not like incredibly unique, but it is just very effective. It is important to note that the health of your demons will be drained by 10% every time you do cast it, but Remedium is obviously there to bring it back up to full if necessary. Vythelas is quite simple. If we read his description, it just states that it inscribes a demonic rune upon fallen foes that adds fire rate and heat damage when collected to your weapons. This one is also pretty simple to demonstrate. There is actually one of these right here, and if I open up my map, you're going to see those little crosshairs. Those are these, and when you go and pick them up, in the top right, you're going to see the Demonium buff, and this buff is more heat damage and fire rate on your weapons. You'll see in the bottom right that my weapon is actually now a heat elemental mag, which means every shot is going to force proc the heat status. Maybe the Phantasma isn't the best weapon to demonstrate it on, but yeah, you just get heat damage and some fire rate. This also does scale with strength, so it means that you don't really need to build fire rate on your weapons or use any arcanes for it. Any heat damage is just an added benefit to make your guns that much stronger. Now that wraps up all of the passive demons and his first 3 abilities. So what is Brimstone? The best way that I can describe Brimstone is you click this button and you will kill everything near you. You will kill everything near you. This has to be the biggest fuck you button that DE has ever added to the game, and let me show you why. Yeah, so enemies just get a bajillion heat stacks on them, and that was with no mods on. If I actually had some mods on, if I was actually shooting enemies, if I applied viral to any of them, if I was using roar, the damage debuff, it gets a hell of a lot worse. For them, not for us. Brimstone states that Uriel and his demons create a glowing ring of flaming brimstone, haha, charge the ability by utilizing demon abilities. Yeah, so on top of the 75 energy cost to use his ultimate, you can't actually just cast it whenever you want. Look at my HUD in the bottom right. There is that red meter, and if I bring some more enemies back out here and interact with my demon's passives, so we kill this guy, we kill a chained enemy, or we use the 3rd ability, you will see that the meter is starting to build. And the meter doesn't build very, very quickly. I honestly think the best way to actually get the meter to 100% so you can use Brimstone is kind of by spamming the 3rd ability. But just look out for the mark, make sure you're killing enemies that your demons have attacked, because that is another way to charge up the bar. And then once you do, you get to release an ultimate that will kill everything in range. And the range on this ability isn't small. Base radius of 15 means that at 280%, you have like 50 meters of range, which means you will just cover the entire tile set in flames and kill every enemy. It starts out at, I think, 1500 damage per second, while also triggering heat, which does armor strip enemies, but every consecutive damage instance will be doubled all the way up to 10x. you're just going to cast it every time you get it up to 100% so that you can start building the next charge as soon as possible. Very simple, but also very, very effective. And one thing I forgot to mention is that if you have Infernalis active and you use Demonium, because you have set your demons on fire, you will also cause their spirits that you launch out to let enemies on fire, just so you know. So in terms of how we're going to build him, first step is casting speed Archon shards. You need these. Uriel's casting times are obnoxiously long without them. I even wish that I put some Taus in because the 50% and not 75% or whatever it is just isn't really enough, which is why I'm also using Materai on him. Regardless, you also are going to want to use Violet Archon shards for the equilibrium effect. I have 2 of these. Uriel generates a shit ton of health orbs. Being able to convert those into energy is why you can run such low efficiency and then get such high strength to make all of these abilities and your demons way more effective. And then I just had a free slot here, so I put in more ability strength because that is his most important stat by far. Here's the build that I've put together without using a helmet ability. I will have a video coming out later with some helmet builds. This one goes pretty much all in on ability strength while making sure we have enough range so that the damage vulnerability from Demonium can actually affect a lot of enemies, and the range also does help Brimstone out, giving it a 26.25 meter radius. Because Uriel has such an easy time surviving with Remedium, we can just use adaptation in combination with semi-consistent casting, which you already do to keep your demons alive, to just not be able to die. And I am using Archon Vitality ranked up to give us a lot of HP, just to kind of have a backbone to fall on if we need to. But your shields and overshields are going to be pretty much always maxed if you cast this enough. Yeah, 129% heal. If we just come out here and I cast the ability once, 1886 on my overshields. It isn't easy to break that on Steel Path, especially with adaptation. But this build is also super flexible. If you want to, you can swap out adaptation for even more range with overextended. This does push Brimstone out to 40 meters and also has Demonium at 15.9 per explosion, for which there are many of the 3 spirits. Losing the ability strength does kind of suck, but remember Kamisato's bonus of 60%, which would bring us back to 258, isn't being shown here. And because your companions are coded to be hyper aggressive, they actually trigger Kamisato very quickly, and the extra 20% movement speed from the rank 5 version is really good for them. I leave this slot open because you can really use whatever you want here. I don't think he needs stuff like Energize, but if you want to use something like Arcane Hotshot to get a ton of critical chance for your weapons, you can do that. If you want to use Arcane Strike for a melee, any type of fire rate thing, even though you already do have it, he is a super easy character to build. There's not much really to him here, so you're probably going to want to use some type of damage buff. I guess I can just go even more ability strength with Augmented. It's kind of up to you. Growing power in the aura, you're probably going to want to use Corrosive Projection though. It's going to be a little bit better of a damage buff. And yeah, Archon Vitality doesn't need to be maxed out. It doesn't even really need to be here. Uriel is incredibly flexible. The weapon that I am pairing with him normally would be the Vincubus, but I'm going to have my own separate video on that. And I wanted to try out the Phantasma with the new Arcane Primary Debilitate. I will talk more about this in another video because this arcane is, yeah, it's an arcane that I think is going to see a ton of usage, especially on this gun. So expect a short or a video on that very soon. But that is Uriel, everyone. For the companion, a Nautilus with a Tazakor to just spread some corrosive and cold. Here is the build on Nautilus. It is quite simple. Generates us even more HP orbs. And then here is the build on the Tazakor. Nothing crazy here. And yeah, that's Uriel. I'm sure we are going to find even more broken stuff to use on him in the next week, but I just wanted to give you guys a very quick look at him before we kind of do all the crazy build and theory crafting stuff. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you very soon for the Vincubus, Harrow, and Wisp, and then the 2 new Prime weapons, because, yeah, look, we got new Prime weapons with this update. Where is it at? I don't know why I was looking at my primaries. It's the Sagek Prime, and then the Galeriac Prime. So expect videos on those and every other subject in this update because there's so much to talk about very soon. I appreciate you all.